Why does South Africa still not have VAR? The first public trial of VAR in South Africa starts in March 2019 when the Confederation of African Football held a workshop in South Africa. By November of that year, the PSL chairman, Dr. Irvin Khoza, said the league was ready to use VAR but needed SAFA's approval. Then came years of nearlies and almosts. VAR was meant to be tested at the 2022 Carling Black Label game, but that didn't happen. In 2023, the South African Football Association said it had written to FIFA and that implementation was close. In October 2023, we as CashNSport were the first to estimate that the cost of VAR could be somewhere between 50 and 80 million rand and that it would be very difficult to implement in South Africa. Then in January 2025, Sports Minister Gayton McKenzie promised an April rollout. Government later announced an 82 million rand fee for the project, and in March 2026, they transferred the first 20 million rand required to get the project rolling. Yet, in July 2026, SAFA's head of referees has publicly stated that we will not see VAR in the 2026-2027 season. According to our knowledge of the situation, VAR most likely will be tested in cup competitions and more specifically only in the latter stages of cup competitions such as the quarterfinals, semi-finals and finals, and then later implemented into the league, and that might only happen in 2028, 2029, and even then we have no guarantees that that will happen. So why is it so hard for South Africa to implement VAR? And the simple answer is, VAR isn't just a TV next to a pitch. It's much more complicated than that. The idea for VAR started in the Netherlands through the Dutch Federation's Refereeing 2.0 project. FIFA approved live experiments in 2016 and VAR officially entered football's laws in 2018. The early Hawkeye technology used for VAR used multiple high-speed cameras positioned around a field to track an object frame by frame and calculate its three-dimensional path using triangulation. That's why many people first knew it from cricket and tennis, where it could predict ball trajectories with high precision. Modern football VAR is built on a broader, integrated replay and data system rather than a single tracking tool. A typical top-level VAR system uses between 8 and 20 broadcast cameras depending on the competition, including dedicated offside cameras placed in line with the last defender. These cameras must be precisely calibrated so that their perspectives can be aligned into a consistent spatial reference. All those live camera feeds are then sent in real time to a video operating room either on-site at the stadium or at a remote hub. The feeds are synchronized down to the frame level, meaning every angle shows the exact same moment in play. This is critical for offside decisions, where the system must identify the precise frame in which the ball is played and compare it to the position of attacking and defending players. A replay operator uses specialized software to control these feeds. They can scrub through footage frame by frame, switch between angles instantly, apply slow motion and mark key moments. For offside decisions, the operator can overlay calibrated lines onto the pitch image aligned with the camera geometry to determine player positions relative to each other. The referee on the pitch is also connected via a dedicated radio communication system to the video operating room and interference resistant so that conversations are clear and immediate during live play. For the system to function properly, several technical requirements must be met at every match. These include high-definition camera coverage with consistent angles, reliable fiber or high bandwidth data links to transmit video without delay, redundant or backup power supplies to prevent outages, secure servers to record and store footage, and calibrated equipment to ensure accuracy in measurement, including things such as the offside lines. So the pitch-side review screen that you see is only the final step in such a complicated process. So when people say, just put a TV next to the pitch and skip the technology, it's not that simple. A single angle can change a decision, and this system needs all the angles all the time to work properly, and that's why it's so expensive. A single broadcast quality VAR camera can cost anywhere between 500,000 Rand and 1.5 million Rand depending on its specifications, and a full VAR setup typically requires between 8 and 12 cameras per stadium and can go all the way up to 20, and that's just the upfront investment. On top of that, there are also ongoing annual costs for referees training, staffing, maintenance, software licensing, connectivity and operations, and these costs can range between 3 and 8 million Rand per stadium per year at a minimum. So what options does South Africa have to implement VAR? One approach is a decentralized model. This involves mobile VAR units that travel between stadiums or a phased rollout using VAR Lite, where fewer cameras are installed at selected venues before expanding. FIFA allows VAR Lite to work with between 4 and 8 cameras. These options reduce the need for permanent infrastructure at every stadium, but they come with their own challenges. Mobile units must be transported, installed, tested and secured at each venue, and consistency can become an issue if setups vary from match to match. South Africa has largely moved to a more centralized model. The plan is to build a VAR hub that receives video feeds from around the country. This central hub would house the VAR officials, replay operators, and technical systems needed to review decisions in real time. Each option, however, still runs into the same local problem. Almost all the major stadiums used in South Africa are owned by municipalities. The central hub model helps to simplify the officiating side, but only if every stadium can reliably send high-quality video without delays or interruptions. And as we've seen in South Africa, we have a big issue with connectivity in stadiums. And this is why government's own plan includes stadium assessments, connectivity work, and a dedicated VAR training center. Then there's the issue of the relationship between the South African Football Association and the Premier Soccer League. Dr. Irvin Khoza, the PSL chairman, appeared before Parliament in late 2025 and said this.
Where we are as a league, it's difficult for us to make a contribution in this meeting. Because in my response to you, I said that we will only respond to the extent possible. But we thought it was going to be fair that, we should come here with the National Association with one voice. And also, there are meetings that is 1 or 2 outstanding with the minister. Because it was honorable enough that on the 30th of September 2024, he gave us the good news to say that they want to meet with us as a PSL. I never lost the opportunity to meet him the following day. He gave me the good news, which I shared with the executive committee, that there will be money made available to implement the VAR. Where we are now at this point, there are 1 or 2 outstanding, information that we have not received yet. So that's why we want to be of a value to this meeting in making a contribution. We're asking for your good self, to give us permission to stand down, because the minister on the 4th of September issued a statement, which was good news. We want to make sure that we follow up on that statement, so that when we have to respond to questions in this parliament, there's a clarity of information, because we've got the chronological processes that were followed in making sure that it becomes a reality. But more importantly, what makes us to be a bit uncomfortable, Honorable Chairperson, our funding model is very sensitive. Right now, we are funded by broadcast rights, which are now being owned by a new company. We still have to understand how they operate. Whether the funding is going to be there or not going to the future, we are not sure. But more importantly, incidental expenses that go with the VAR, what are those incidental expenses? We are not sure at this point in time. So I thought it's very important to engage on these matters with our mother association, also with the minister, for clarity. So by the time we come here, maybe you send us questions to respond on questions. At the moment, you'll be shooting in the dark and maybe talking past each other as if there are issues. So I want to make sure that I err on the side of caution, to make sure we're giving an opportunity on what the committee wants us to answer. Reading the invitation, it does not assist me in the executive committee. What's the area that we must deal with VAR? We've got a lot of questions to ask, which are not supposed to be for this meeting, for the meeting of the Joint Management Committee, where we are having the authority to engage with SAFA on matters of common interest.
So imagine that, in 2025, just under a year before VAR is meant to be implemented, a meeting between stakeholders still hadn't happened, and the PSL was none the wiser as to what would happen with the system that was supposed to be installed in its own league. And this is probably the reason why the Ministry of Sports, Arts and Culture has stepped in so heavily. But also the reason why the Sports Ministry can't force anything to happen. The Sports Ministry announced the funding, they pushed the deadlines, formed the project team, and in March 2026, they transferred the first 20 million rand of an 82 million rand allocation to SAFA. That initial 20 million rand was supposed to kickstart the rollout, but the problem is that the sports ministry doesn't run sport. It provides the government framework in which sport must function, but ultimately it can't implement anything as a sports ministry. The onus is on SAFA.
VAR must come now. I've given you the money. I'm going to repeat it.
The 20 million rand was the first tranche needed to make this VAR system happen. We're not sure yet where the remainder will come from, but according to our sources, it will likely come from a sponsor who will help to implement it. Speaking of sponsors, SAFA previously had a 5-year deal with Showmax that sponsored referees, and it supported more than 40,000 referees throughout the system. And it's a system that's worth taking a deeper look into. Unfortunately, South Africa doesn't have a professional refereeing system. Yes, there are a few referees who are part of the Confederation for African Football's elite refereeing program, and those are professionals, but the vast majority of referees in this country do their work part-time. But since Showmax was shut down, that sponsorship has ended. So we've established that VAR will be very difficult to implement in South Africa. But does the tool at least work? In England, correct key match decisions rose from 82% to 94% during the Premier League's first VAR season. Italy reported that its estimated error rate fell from 5.7% to under 1% with VAR. Yet, even with these improvements, VAR remains controversial. Just look at what happened at the World Cup, look at what's happening in England, and there have been many calls for VAR to either be reformed or scrapped entirely because it still remains inconsistent. South Africa may indeed need VAR, but perhaps the first step, in our opinion, must be to harmonize the relationship between SAFA and Premier Soccer League as the two leading football bodies in this country. The second step must be to professionalize referees, pay them a decent wage, review their work openly, and hold them to one clear standard. Technology can help a good referee make a better decision, but it can't turn an underfunded, misaligned administration into a strong and reliable results system. So that concludes our deep dive into VAR in South African football. If you've enjoyed this video, thank you so much for watching. Give us a follow, a like, or a comment wherever you're watching this. We'll see you again next week for another Cash and Sport video. Cheers.